In setting the foundation for Dark Zen meditation practice, the Buddha wishes us to understand that what we are in terms of our body is really an artificial construction. Our body is devoid of our true nature in the same way a house is devoid of the builder who made it, although it did have a builder. This is not to suggest there is no ultimate nature for us. Indeed, there is. However, our true nature is not this body and its emotional world of reactions and pains. Even though we cling to our body in the strong belief that some part of it is our true nature, nevertheless, according to the Buddha, our present condition shows no evidence of being such. In fact, if we closely examine our body, it becomes obvious that its entire psychophysical existence is one of impermanence, pain, and a false sense of self, which stands in proxy for our true body, which is light, which is called Dharmakaya. The individual consisting of a body, which we call our self, is not our true self at all, because as the Buddha pointed out, if it were the true self, it would not suffer. This individual, which we believe to be our true nature, is really just the awareness of the temporal body, which is subject to disease, old age, and death. This awareness is never free of what it beholds. In fact, it can only behold coarse sensory phenomena, including suffering. Figuratively speaking, our present condition is like being trapped inside of a robot, not remembering our birth into it. But our true body is not this robot body, although it sees everything through it. Rather, our true body is made of undying, spiritual light which we have forgotten and cannot see with our robot senses. Living inside this robot, over time, we have come to over-identify with it, believing more and more that it is who we really are. But all we are doing is transferring and superimposing our true spiritual body onto the robot, so that it appears to be real. As a result, we come to lose the sense of our true nature, which is now bound up with the awareness of robot individuality. Clearly, our first duty must be to break the spell the robot has upon us, and secondly, to locate our true body, which is our true undying nature. This involves seeing our body of light, which we mentioned earlier, which is different than the robot body. The practice for doing this is meditation. Meditation is always, therefore, a way of telling our true being from the false, artificial being. By the practice of meditation, we first begin to learn to stop following our thoughts and emotions, which arise from the body, which we believe harbors the true self. Such a belief is always misleading us. It will never bring us to everlasting peace and nirvana. Finally, we should note that without using Dark Zen meditation, meditation will just consist in facing our prison-like condition from which we have been conditioned to believe there is no escape. In fact, some teachers believe this is the role of meditation. The student learns to accept their fate, which is, in essence, a hopeless outlook. Despite what may seem like a woeful outlook, we have the means of Dark Zen meditation to help us escape. We also have a refuge from this unwholesome way of existing, because what we truly are, namely, the true self, has never been actually reborn into this body. This might explain why the Buddha, before the death of his physical body, said the following:
Therefore, Ananda, stay as those who have the self of light, as those who have this refuge of self, as those who have no other refuge, as those who have the foundation of light, as those who have the refuge of this foundation, as those who have no other refuge.
While we have come to identify with almost an infinite succession of painful bodily existences, we have never actually been reborn into any one of this perplexing existences, because fundamentally, we are potentially identical with the unborn true self. Our rebirth into countless bodies, some God-like and some less than so, only appears to be this way because we are inverted. This means that we are turned to look towards the corrupt, changing aspect of phenomena, as perceived through the body, instead of beholding that which is changeless and undying, which is before the body, this being our true nature. It is the intent of Dark Zen meditation, as a result of this inversion, to restore our true anterior position, bringing us out of our confinement in this present body. Practice will, therefore, consist in learning to turn away from the phenomenal world by repeatedly turning to the buddhic light so as to follow this light upwards, enlarging our contact with it, and thereby becoming more of this buddhic light as a result. Only by this path, which is started by Dark Zen meditation, can we overcome suffering. There is no other means. In explaining the phenomenal world, it is that which we see before us through our sensory organs, which is subsequently interpreted by us. In relationship to this, the spiritual light of the Buddha, being a first, is always prior to phenomena, and even the work of interpretation. If we attempt to use our sensory powers to perceive the spiritual light, this light will remain inconceivable because it is uncreated, despite the fact that without it, we could not draw in a single breath. For our entire existence, it has never occurred to us that by turning around, in a manner of speaking, we can engage with the light of the Buddha, which animates our very body so that we can partake in his illumination and see the undying nature of this light as he witnessed it. Many of us, however, choose to follow the ways of the world, becoming more entangled in it because we believe it is the true world. The majority are like a thirsty person chasing after mirages, hoping to quench his thirst. Incidentally, this is the meaning behind the idea of samsara, in which we repeatedly become conscious of new bodily births and subsequent deaths. To engage with the light of the Buddha and subsequently enlarge it, Dark Zen meditation uses the breath as a meditation subject, including even koans and other subjects when necessary. By utilizing the breath as the subject of meditation, the adept does not follow his breathing and, subsequently, does not follow his body. This is key and what sets Dark Zen meditation apart from other forms of meditation, which use the body in some form as a meditation object. Dark Zen meditation demands that the adept envisage being mentally prior to the breathing cycle, so as to distinguish that which animates the breathing process from the animated, sensuous facticity of breathing itself. In other words, Dark Zen meditation is yoking with that which breathes us, which is our intrinsic, true self. Now, why is this so crucial? It is because, as we touched on earlier, the body is an artificial construction and therefore lacks genuine permanence which authentic selfhood offers. If we wish to escape the body's destruction caused by our oversympathy with it, we must learn to identify with our true nature, which is undying. But more specifically, we have to identify with the buddhic light, which is not of the mortal body, which is instead thoroughly before it. This light is most realized and distinguished from the physical body by the practice of trying to be before the in and out breath. This is important because breathing is, to a degree, subject to our control, which belongs to the will, or what Buddhists call citta. This means, from a Buddhist perspective, that since we are fundamentally the citta, we can engage with the undefiled part of citta rather than the defiled part associated with breathing. So, we have the opportunity to discover how to be actually before the breath rather than being always mentally after it. By doing so, we reach our pure mind, which is naturally liberated and independent of the body. This is really the meaning of liberation,